What is going on, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome to another edition of the Tuffy Talk live show, y'all. And I just want to go ahead and just jump right into this here because, Greg, I was literally just getting ready for the show, and I saw this tweet by Great Day Tar Heel. I said, you know what, Greg, we're not even going to wait 10 seconds of getting into the show before just give it up for my guy, Great Day Tar Heel, man. Just loving what he's saying right here. I mean, jumping right into it here, and again, we'll kind of take a step back. But I just saw this. I said, this is the way I want to start off the show right here, and because obviously we'll talk about Ven-Allen Lubin, his decision to commit to NC State, former UNC basketball center, choosing to come over to the good side of the force and wear the black and red. And and all these UNC fans just crapping on Ven-Allen Lubin, saying traitor, how dare he, and I get it for sure. Like, let's put it this way, Greg, if we were on the opposite side, we wouldn't be very happy either. I get it for sure. But I mean, Great Day Tar Heel said it best right here. This narrative needs to stop. UNC softball just took 2 transfers from NC State. We had former NC State football players on last year's team. Players make decisions they believe is best for them. It is what it is. Like, yeah. Because here's the thing. Here's my biggest thing, Greg, from it is that it is what it is. At the end is telling you that he's not necessarily thrilled about it either. Like, he's not happy about Ven-Allen Lubin going to NC State, but he gets it. Like, it's
today's landscape.
Dude could not have said it any better. Yes, yeah. It's like, and come 5-10 years from now, when basically the SEC is running the show, like running college sports almost within itself, like we're gonna, and how, because like, let's put it this way. I mean, like, just to kind of give you a little bit of a sense of where this is going. I mean, next year, for the first time since 1919, NC State men's basketball is not going to be playing at UNC. Like, right. and you say, well, that's not a big deal. Well, it's a taste of what's to come.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, as much as people don't want to call it a rivalry, and I get it, it's been lopsided at times in the basketball world. Football, we've been pretty much, since the ACC was a thing, it's been a pretty much even series. I know Carolina likes to hang their hats on the leather helmet days, but that's been a pretty steady thing. And look, this is 2 cycles in a row where we've had a former Carolina player commit to State. I know with Dontrez Styles, he came via Georgetown, but he was a Carolina player at one point. Look, we've taken Carolina football players. They've taken State football players. It's just going to be what it is. I mean, when you have schools this close, there's a chance that they like the area, and that's, probably part of it. Right. And I'm okay with it. Like, I get it. I don't really get too upset with it. I don't care. Like, if you go do your thing, go do your thing. I'm just too old for it to get all wrapped around the axle about it.
Right. Well, and here's my other thing too, is I just, because the story with Ven-Allen Lubin, if you're an NC State fan, don't know much about him, is that we are now going to be his 4th stop in his college career.
Yeah.
Starting off, I believe, Vanderbilt.
No, Vanderbilt was in the middle. He started out west, I thought.
I think it was Notre Dame. Was it not Notre Dame?
Yeah, I think it was Notre Dame, Vandy, Carolina, then us.
You got it. Yep. Yeah. So, he's getting towards the end of his career, and so he wants playing time. He wants to make the best bang for his buck. And I mean, more than likely, especially, with the increase that NC State basketball has seen from an NIL landscape, I mean, here's the thing, like UNC and NC State, believe it or not now, are not in completely separate worlds when it comes to support. Like, I mean, UNC, sure, we don't know the exact on both sides, but let's put it this way. They're in the same galaxy for sure.
The gap has been closed.
It's been very much closed for sure. So with that being said, because like you hear about stories from, and like, I mean, I've talked on here before with football, where a buddy of mine who used to be a part of the App State program, he decided to move on and go live his life and go on to bigger, better things. But he still had buddies of his that still worked at App State. And there was this all-conference defensive tackle for App State that ended up transferring to go to Auburn. And he barely even played at all. And literally, my buddy called the App State guy. I was like, well, why did he leave App State, where he was an all-conference player, starting every single game, playing every single snap, to go to Auburn? And basically, App State guy said he made 4 times as much money going and playing backup at Auburn than he did starting at App State. And it's like, so you hear stories about that, and so you say, well, being the backup at UNC, you must make more than the starting, than potentially a starting center, or if not a 6-man on an NC State roster, right? Well, not anymore. And I mean, because especially too is that UNC had to spend big dollars to get that big 7-foot transfer that they got from Arizona. And so they're going to play that guy a lot. But also too as well is that so I mean, it kind of hurts him, Ven-Allen Lubin, in terms of playing time, because again, he's not going to be played in a significant manner. But it also too, secondly, is, I mean, just putting 2 together, like a 6-man, if not starting center at NC State is going to get paid more money than a 10-minute a game player at UNC. Like it just and that's not even necessarily knowing behind the scenes stuff, because I'm gonna be honest with everybody, I don't know much in terms of the behind the scenes of how much Ven-Allen's getting, but I'm just gonna go ahead on a limb and say he's gonna make more NC State than he would have at UNC. So
yeah, I mean, he probably wouldn't transfer if that weren't the case.
No, well, let's put it this way, Greg. Like if he got, it kind of goes back to the App State football player scenario where it's a battle between playing time and how much money you're getting. At the end of the day, if he got offered more money at Carolina to be a 10-minute player guy versus coming to NC State where he's a 25-minute ish player, but making less, then it might be more of a conversation. But that's kind of where I'm at. But luckily enough, again, going on a thin line here, I do not think that is the situation at all. I think it was honestly a best case scenario for Ven-Allen Lubin, where he gets to come to NC State, play a significant role, and a player too that was showing a lot of promise last season late, which we'll talk about too. But again, more playing time and more than likely more money as well. Like it's and the only reason why a guy like that would turn down playing time and money is loyalty. And again, loyalty is all but you remember when?
I think of the past.
Remember that time?
Yeah.
Not no more. So
yeah, I look, getting back to the player himself, I think this is a really good pickup for State. Our guy Ethan over, he does Wolfpack Stats on Twitter. He had a really nice tweet yesterday. Says that Torvik says Val was UNC's second best player last year. He's a reliable rebounder, shot blocker, and low usage but efficient scorer inside. 75% of his shots are at the rim. And then his career numbers are 120, which is ORTG, which I don't really understand that one. But it's that is a good number. I do know that. But then you have the 60% efficiency field goal, 10% efficiency rebound. 10% offensive rebound, 18% defensive rebounds, and 4.6% blocks. So, look, he's another guy that worst case scenario, he adds depth. If best case is he's a starter for you. I think, there's going to be some opportunities there at his position to make some, to make some noise.
I mean, here's the thing: is that literally since he played us on February 19th. He scored at least double digits every single game the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Like he is and on top of that too, and you may say, well, okay, well, where's his slack? So I mean, he has the points there, but there was also to end the season, 4 out of 5 and at the end of the regular season, 4 of the last 5 games of regular season, he had at least 10 rebounds.
Yeah.
So again, very productive there as well. And then if I pull
if you not to cut you off real quick, but the rebounding is an Achilles heel for State over the last couple of years, and I think that's something that you are gonna see Will Wade make an emphasis on. Yeah. So again, if nothing else, he's got to go get you production on the rebounds. And look, you don't have to score double digits. If you go give me 10 rebounds a night, I'm going to be completely happy, because Dennis Rodman made a lot of money doing that. And if we can get that out of him, and that's his role or whatever it becomes, sign me up for it all day.
Well, to go back to that, I mean, like he was a 71% free throw shooter
Yeah,
last year, which I mean you don't usually
not
see
horrible.
in a big man. No, I mean for a big man,
Yeah,
like that's pretty solid for
yeah,
sure. I'll take
yeah.
that. And then he averaged almost a block a game. So just like you were saying though, like as Dennis Rodman, I mean, not only was he a great rebounder, he was a great
Hmm.
defender as well.
Sure,
And so he's going to be a great potential there and great help. But also too, he's 6'8", 230. So he's a guy that's going to be able to get up and down the floor quickly,
he'll
moving
pound.
transition. Yeah, no, exactly. So, so the only kind of question still for me that's lingering with this roster is Mbaya, and can he make it to campus? Does that commitment stick? That's really for me the last question I really have. But if Mbaya shows up on campus, Greg, if Mbaya shows up on campus,
Which it sounds like he will.
it sounds like he will, but again, it
Yeah,
just
until they show up.
yep, exactly. It can go 99% to zero real quick,
Sure,
So,
sure.
but I mean, just that is a phenomenal 1-2 punch at the 5. That I mean, you get him, both those guys on top of Jerry Dang, on top of Darian Williams,
Hmm.
Terrence Arsenault, like
It's not going to be
easily.
your Kevin Keats team, that's for sure.
Well, and so let's get right to that, Greg.
Yeah,
Well, and real quick too, I guess let me get to so a couple comments here. I would love for every state player S to look. I don't know what that means. Sorry, I kind of read that a little differently. Russ saying, old school guy here, struggling with this NIL era. If I only have a set amount of money to donate, do I send it to Wolfpack Club or the NIL fund? Man, Greg, have we had this conversation? This is like via man, this is the early 2024
yeah.
conversation right here, man. But
Yeah.
it's a fair one for sure, and especially now that you're starting to see, now that state fans are really starting to taste the benefits that NIL can bring you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's kind of boils back up that conversation around NIL being because it became because now it's less of a you need to and more of a look what we're getting.
Right.
Look at the fruit of of what we're doing here. So Greg, what are your what are your
Yeah,
thoughts? Like,
I definitely have a lot of thoughts here. So you can attack this from a couple different angles. One, I think there's going to be a day in time where the two are going to merge. So that's the first thing. So I think within the next year you won't have to make that decision. But in the meantime, I'm going to lay it out one of two ways. Do you go to a lot of games? Do you have season tickets? Do you do these types of things? Right. If the answer is yes, and your budget is limited, I say stay on the Wolfpack Club side. That's going to give you your points for if you go to road games and you go through the Wolfpack Club. If you do your season tickets, you need to make sure that you have your points so you can get, especially now if you go to basketball. If you don't have LTRs, that's really the big thing here. If you don't have those lifetime rights, you're going to need those points in order to pick at a sooner time to get better seats. So that's where I'm going to go on that. Now, if you're a person that doesn't go to a lot of sporting events and you go to 1 or 2 games a year here and there, and you buy your tickets on a secondary ticket market or from other fans, I say go to the NIL. And look, again, everyone's budget's different, but if you donate, and we're going to use this as a baseline, but if you give $1,000, say to NIL, and I know that's a significant amount of money, but if you give to the NIL, you actually get Wolfpack Club points back. So for every $1,000 you give to NIL, you get 8 Wolfpack Club points. So maybe that helps people out there. But again, we're not the experts. If you've got questions, obviously hit up Wolfpack Club representatives and NIL folks, and then they'll walk you through it. But that's just kind of where I'm at, where my headspace is. And then, like you said, there's NIL events. Like they're doing a Will Wade dinner here in a couple of weeks. That was a couple $100. Or I say it was if you're a Savage, or excuse me, if you're a one pack, it was $50. If you're a non-member, it was $100. You get to meet the coach. And I think a lot of these meet and greets that you're going to start having, I think they're going to turn to pay to show up, pay to play, if you will. I think the day of free events are going to be kind of small and in between.
Yep.
Again, it's just a no-brainer money maker for these organizations.
Yeah.
So that's one way. And then, they have trips and raffles and auctions and all of that other stuff that goes to NIL proceeds as well. So it just depends on where your head is. But yeah, that's kind of where my thought is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for me, I mean, it's roughly the same thing. I mean, luckily enough now that, you get Wolfpack Club, credits out of NIL donations. I think that was a huge win for NC State and the Wolfpack Club, because I think that it was kind of pulling people away a little bit from the Wolfpack Club.
Yep.
just because it was like, well, okay, well, if you're making me choose, then I
Right.
mean, some people are going to choose NIL versus
Yeah.
Wolfpack Club,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
so now it's not either or necessarily.
Right.
So yeah, just like you were saying, Greg. But I mean, here's my thing: is like, in my opinion, like if you came to me and said, Layden, I have 20 or $50. So I have $50 to donate. You know, where do I start? I say start with the Wolfpack Club.
By the way,
Like,
they will both gladly take that $20 or $50. They are not like, well, if you're not a big pocket donor, we don't want your money. That is not the way that they advertise it. In fact, there's a reason why the number for the minimum buy-in to the Wolfpack Club is like $10 a month. I think it's like $120 for the year, if I remember.
It is.
Yeah.
No, and Ben Broussard's clearly said, if you came to me saying I give you $5 a month, he will take it. Like it's not you know, they are more than happy to work with you. But because here's my thing, Greg, I still 100% I'm on the train. Like if you aren't in the Wolfpack Club first, that's where you got to start. Like I think everything.
Again, if you go to events, if you don't go to events, it's not that big of a deal.
Sure. But also, too, we're all NC. I mean, if you're an NC State fan, you go to events.
Well, it depends on how many events you're going to. If you're a season ticket holder, it makes complete sense. Again, now that they've changed this whole pack forward program that they do now, where you have to, you know, put a little more money into the pot to get your seats. And again, I know people have complained about this, but folks really need to understand that they were underselling these products for a very long time, and that's kind of the reason why we're in the shape that we are in some of these athletic programs as well. But the one thing I do want to say, if there's a specific sport that you really like to support, you can do that with both as well, with Wolfpack Club and NIL. You can have your money go straight to like gymnastics or wrestling or soccer or baseball, whatever your sport is. That money will then be distributed within that sport, or if it's the Wolfpack Club, the scholarships will be pulled from that pot. For that team. So just want to make that as well too. So if there's specific things and people get confused, like I've seen on social media, it's like, well, why is there 2 NILs? There's not 2 NILs. It's all one. It's one pack NIL. And then Savage, if you want to call it, like I consider it like a club within the one pack NIL framework or the umbrella. So just I've seen some of that out there, and I want to clear that up too, because there's not 2 NILs. And people don't understand too that, again, like I just said, you can donate to specific sports, because now people are starting to get a little sensitive, right? Wrestling needs their cut. Baseball needs their cut. Women's basketball needs their cut. Like they all have the handout saying, what about us? What about us? Because again, men's basketball and football are going to be king. That's just, that's where all the revenue comes from for the most part. But again, if you want to specifically donate to a cause or a specific sport, you can do that.
Right. Now, other benefit as well. So now NIL is officially tax deductible as well, correct?
There's an arm, from what I understand. There's a I hate to use this word, but it's like a pass through. I don't want to use money laundering because people already assume that anyway. But it's like an arm. There's a charitable arm that you can donate, and then they funnel the money back. Again, I don't want to go any further than that because I don't understand how that works, but I'm pretty sure that's still a thing. I don't quote me on that. But the Wolfpack Club is 100%
deductible.
Deductible. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, and the other 2 things as well that I wanted to add in, and when it comes to Savage Wolves as well, because, you know, for the people who are asking again, why is Savage Wolves still a thing? Right. In my opinion, it's 2 things. First and foremost, the less important one, but still an important piece for sure, is that Savage Wolves is really what started this whole thing.
It's the OG.
It's the OG for NIL. So I think a lot of it is honestly like to keep, you know, like respect the people that kind of started the whole thing.
In its name recognition too. In its name recognition.
Correct. People know it 100% for sure. You know, with what Tom Lavosi, with what Steve Williams, got to give a shout out to Steve Williams, SFX Sports, Reed, you know, all those guys did.
Yeah, Hayes Lancaster.
Hayes, like Scott Wood, even got to give a shout out to Scott Wood as well, started it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like, you know, don't want to see that just go away. Like, I want to see the work and the sweat that they put in to continue to live on.
Sure.
Second, and honestly, though, I think the biggest reason, though, is that realistically, honestly, that football, because again, Savage Wolves is focused on the football side.
Mm-hmm.
Football, heads and tails, bar none, is by far the biggest sport in terms of
Yeah.
requirements from an NIL perspective to be competitive.
Yep.
I mean, and just to kind of, I mean, because it really comes down to, for the most part, usually men's basketball and football being the two predominant. Why? Because they're revenue. They're the main two. Like, you know, it's just, it's not really a shocker there that those are going to be the main two sports that for most schools are going to take the most money.
Yep.
But for basketball, you can have $6 to $8 million and be top 25, like you know, top of your conference, easily competitive.
Yep.
Football, I mean, you know, Ohio State's, I think 25 million
minimum.
Minimum.
I've heard even like almost 32 for some of these teams.
Yeah. So I mean, just and again, obviously, are we ever going to spend that much money on football? No.
I don't think we'll spend that much on all of our sports combined.
Exactly.
And I'm not even, and that's not being disrespectful. Like, I just think that's where we're at. I mean, we only have 14,000 members in the Wolfpack Club, and hell, that's a year's worth of graduating students.
Right. Yeah. No. And again, it's a different league. It's different alumni bases. It's different national support. Like,
how bad do you want it?
Exactly. How bad do you want it? And so it's like, listen, like, you know, we need every single piece of help that we can get to at least be competitive from an NIL perspective in football. We're never going to be the top. We're never going to be probably what Florida State is, you know, from an NIL perspective. But, you know, we just want to be as close enough within spitting distance to get,
to
you
compete.
know, so that way,
give yourself a chance.
Exactly. You know, so those are really kind of in my head two reasons. So Rusty, hopefully that helps. But again, if you have any questions, let us know. Reach out to any of us. But also too, as well, for anybody else who's listening, if you have questions about One Pack, Savage Wolves, Wolfpack Club with somebody that's not a part of either, because I know sometimes maybe going to your Wolfpack Club rep and asking these questions might seem a little bit odd, because obviously they have a hand, you know, in that basket for sure. Feel free to come to us for sure. We're always here to help.
We'll give you our opinions, and then we'll point you in the right direction for the experts.
Exactly.
So, always do your research. That's what I always say about things like this.
And always, and the only thing we ask, just make sure to use our referral code. And so no, that's you know, hey, you never know. Hey, so
that's true. I've pointed a couple of people to some of these, and I don't get my credit because they don't mention my name, but that's all right. I'm not bitter. I really want people to join. Again, you know, if it's $5 a month, that's one less Starbucks latte. Like every dollar does really count, because it's a lot easier to get 10,000 people at $5 than it is 5 people at $10,000.
Correct.
So again, like it really just needs to be a grassroots campaign, a grassroots effort. It's like tell a friend who tells a friend who tells a friend, and then next thing you know, you have a movement.
Right. Now, Greg, let's get back to one thing, basically, you know, what you had mentioned, and then I kind of put a tap on that to, you know, answer Rusty's question here. So here's my thing. Like, it honestly does still blow my mind a little bit thinking about where we were just a few months ago when the news came out, when I was walking to the ACC Wrestling Championship, and I get the ping pop up. Kevin Keats is officially relieved of his duties at NC State, and I'm going, oh my God, I can't believe we did it.
Yeah, Sunday morning
we did that. Yep. It was absolutely crazy.
Isn't that weird how you remember like the day? Like, it's just it's like, again, you kind of gave the analogy. It wasn't the best analogy, but it's one of those things like, where were you when this was announced? Because I think in the term of NC State things, it's been a pretty big story within the last 5 years.
Well, and again, I mean, and immediately, like, it's funny. I actually watched Joe Giglio and Ovi's the ONG. They like did a live stream right after the Keats news came out, and they were just ripping it a new one, saying you gotta treat people better than this. Like, you know, he just took you to a Final Four and won an ACC championship. Like, you know, it was just not cool. Whatever. And even in the moment, obviously, you know, Greg, for all of us, it was like, yeah, I wasn't necessarily crazy with the move, but I get it. And especially once the news kind of came out in terms of, you know, obviously the support that came out in order to make it happen, you know, like, okay, I get it now. But sitting here now, Greg, and looking at, I mean, we'll kind of break down this roster here in a little bit once we kind of get off this. But I mean, looking at this roster right here, being okay, a guy that was a starter at Michigan State, a guy that was first team all conference, a guy that was on a top, one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the whole country last year, a guy that was one of the most efficient players in all of ACC basketball last year, the guy that has played professionally overseas for 4 years. Has been productive piece in the European League as a center. And then Quadir Copeland, who was a starter at Syracuse. Matthew Abel, 5-star freshman. Paul McNeil, a guy that was really starting to go off crazy last year. Jerry Dang, a 6'10" guy that could shoot 3 like a guard.
Another ACC guy.
Another ACC guy. Like I'm sitting here looking at this going,
yeah,
man, like were Keats and Wade like coaching the same teams? Like did they have the same locker rooms? Like did they have the same jerseys? Like it just is it's night and day, dude. It really is. You know?
But again, not to make excuses. Yeah, I think you're getting ready to say the same thing I am about like it's apples and oranges from what try that again. What Wade can choose from than what Keats could choose from.
Sure, but as well as at the end of the day, like I've talked about, Greg, and I know you and I have kind of gotten back to this at the end of the day, like you got to spend the money, like at the end of the day, like you need to spend the money, like if you need to donate, you need to be a part of One Pack NIL, all that. But at the end of the day, like I want to know that you spend my money wisely.
Yeah,
and I'm sitting there, one of your the 2 players from last year's team that you spent the most money on, and man, that was that a absolute just lit that money on fire last year. But now I'm looking at this saying, okay, yes, like did Darian Williams take probably $2 million to get it? Yes, but I'm also saying that guy has proven time and time again that, Greg, you or I could go and coach Darian Williams and say, all right, Darren, go out there and play well, and he's going to play well. Like it's so I'm sitting here already saying, yes, I get it. He has not played 1 single minute in in-state uniform yet, but I don't have any concerns that he's not going to play well for us next season.
Pull that up real quick, and I think this is going to be it's going to be kind of understated, but I think it needs to be said. Look at what you spent on your 2 guys last year when you brought those guys in from Louisville. Where did they finish in the conference the year before? Okay, and I'm not saying that you can't have good players on bad teams. But if you look at these teams, Holloman, NCAA tournament, Williams, NCAA tournament, I can barely read. I'm sorry. This is really small.
Terrence Arsenault.
Yeah. NCAA tournament, Lubin, NCAA tournament, Breed, NCAA tournament, Copeland. I can keep going on and on. Every guy that you brought in, with the exception of Dang, that's not either a freshman or a returning guy. Langdon didn't, I don't think he was with Butler. Yeah, they didn't make the tournament. He's like the only transfer that you brought in that was not part of the NCAA tournament last year. So you're bringing guys in that were quality guys on teams that had a good pedigree.
Well, and a lot of these guys too have experience of playing in the top 25, like top 25 competition. Yeah, like because here's my thing, Greg, is that going into next season, for sure, our floor is high from an NC State fan perspective. Because why? Because we spent money to make it happen. But also because I'm looking at this roster saying, okay, for me to say, hey, we should be in the top 4 or 5 in the ACC next year. Hey, we should be a top 25 team next year. We should, be not a at-large bid. We shouldn't be like a bubble team in this other tournament. Yeah. Like these players are listening to us talk about them. Like, we got much bigger goals than that. Like that's an afterthought of just making the tournaments. Like we're trying to go win the whole thing. What you mean? Because all these guys have experience doing that.
Yeah. So, for me, the only thing that I'm kind of waiting for here is, what does the rest of our non-conference schedule look like? We already know who we're going to play in the ACC. They're home and away. That was released last week.
Yep.
We do know that we'll be playing Kansas at home. We heard Liberty is going to be in there from an interview that Will Wade did.
Yep.
So what is the rest of that non-conference going to look like?
Right.
Are we going to be playing in some of these tournaments? I know we are playing in Maui, and I think we know those opponents. So there's still probably a handful of games that still need to be figured out. But you look at all that stuff, and there's going to be plenty of opportunities to make some hay with the net, at least early on. And then when you get into conference play, you could be setting yourself up for a really good run.
Yeah. Again, it's just, and so I guess I get it for sure that then day what Keats had is not what Will Wade has, but I'm also sitting here saying, I mean, like especially, and again, we'll talk about again. This isn't
No, I mean we'll talk about
this
it when we
isn't
do
you,
basketball previews. But I guess the one thing
right?
that I kind of want to close with on this is
Yeah.
he did take a team to the Final Four, and I think and that was his own worst doing, to be honest with you. Now it's weird to say that, but if nothing else, it made the expectations for the next season even more. And then when he didn't deliver on that, it was like, okay, it's
Mm-hmm.
done. Because again, we weren't good the year before we went to the Final Four. We had our Final Four, and then we were really not good the year after. In fact, the second worst
Right.
season in NC State basketball history. Don't need
Right.
to relive all that, but it was just it just made sense. And
Right.
so good on Boo, good on the donors that stepped up to make all this happen, whether it was coming together for the money to, well, first off, part of it was the AD naming rights. So that was
Yeah.
number one.
That was big.
Then you had guys and ladies and families step up to do the buyout. And then you had people to step up to get the hire for Wade. And then you've had people really step up now for the NIL. So you had to have a lot of things happen, and they have happened so far. Now it's time to go see what all the work's going to be needed to be done to put this thing and pull this thing out of the oven and see how it
Yep.
looks.
Well, and here's my thing too. I mean, and kind of two things on this is first of all, like, and Will Wade kind of made this point talking about Tony Bennett and UVA, where
Mhm.
you don't necessarily like go all in necessarily on one season. Be like, I'm going to go and like
Right.
it's either championship or bust. Because why?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of pieces that go into that, such as bracket luck, which definitely is
It's
a
a thing.
real thing.
Mhm.
Injuries,
Mhm.
just basketball. Sometimes
Ton of
baskets go in,
variables.
sometimes they don't. There's a ton of variables. So then all you gotta do is just be in the hunt and then
Yep.
just see
Yep.
what happens. And this team, as long as Mbaya, I mean, even if Mbaya doesn't make it, but especially if Mbaya makes it, in terms of ACC championship, you are 100% in the conversation. You are right there in the conversation.
Yeah, I
For
mean, you should be top 3, top 4 preseason pick, and then again,
in the
you talk
ACC,
about yeah for the ACC,
yeah,
and you get into that top 4, you get double
mhm,
bye, so you don't have to play as many games, so you don't need as much
mhm,
quote unquote game luck, bracket luck, whatever. You
sure,
can kind of control your own destiny at that point.
mhm,
That's a big thing. I know, and I know we won 5 in 5 days. I get it, but that's just something that's only happened twice in the history of NCAA basketball. That's
right.
not where you want to be year in and year out. So you want to make
No,
sure that
definitely
you
not.
put yourself in a great position. And so we are seeing those things starting to happen. The
Yep.
next step is to see how it comes to fruition.
Yep. But also too as well, and this is some though too, which I got to give Will Wade credit for as well, is that again, don't know the exact figure necessarily, but I look at more likely what again I've already mentioned with Darian Williams probably spending about 2 million or so to get him, but then you look at UNC and
Mm-hmm.
they spent roughly the same dollar amount for a transfer from Colorado State. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, listen, hey, I get it. Like he was phenomenal at Colorado State. This guy, I mean, 20 points a game, almost player,
Mountain
a
West
great,
ain't the ACC.
but exactly not the ACC. And again, it's just completely different level. So
Mm-hmm.
then there's a huge risk there
Yeah.
still. But
Yeah.
again, with Darian Williams, he is going to be worth
He's a
it
known commodity.
as long as he stays healthy, he
Yeah.
is going to be worth every penny.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And
Yeah.
because here's the thing too, is it's again, like you take all these players, you or I, Greg, could go out there with this team and they can play well. Like it doesn't take a genius to have these players play
Right.
well and win
Right.
a good amount of games. But
Right.
with Will Wade, the question is, can he make this team great? Can he
Yeah.
make this team elite? It
Yeah.
can 100% happen, and that's all we want as an NC State fan. We just want to
Mm-hmm.
be there. We just want to not have to worry about, oh, are we going to beat UNC finally this season? Oh, are we going to make the NCAA tournament this year? It's time for once to not be like, hey, like we're playing UNC, like how much are we going to be are we going to be the underdog by
Mm-hmm.
on the line, or hey, are we going to make the tournament this year? Like no, like it's not a matter of if we make the tournaments, who we playing in round one.
Yeah.
Like that's so it's huge shout outs to Will Wade again and Andrew Slater and the staff with how they handled the budget and the money, just choosing the shots wisely, not shooting the shot with James Scott and saying, "Oh, we got to get James Scott," or with PJ Haggerty. Obviously, we can talk a little bit, but we won't necessarily spend too much time on his commitment to Kansas State. Which is
player overplayed his hand
a little bit. So, again.
Yeah, I just 2 points, and we can move on. I think we probably need to talk some baseball here, but
absolutely.
2 things. One, I think last year you saw Keats take some big swings, hoping that they would pan out, and some of that might be just due to the budget constraints. I don't know, but I think that might be fair. But the big thing for me with this team is we just talked about the amount of talent that's coming in, a big influx in talent. You've basically overhauled your roster by like 90%. Again, the math's a little hard there, but you only bringing in 2 guys from last year's team, with one being a what do you call it? A walk on. Thank you. Reserve, way reserved.
Which I don't know if you saw Jordan Snell on his
he was
video
awesome.
today saying, "You're stuck with me for another year." I love that.
I love it. I love his energy. But you need that. I think you need that energy guy on the bench.
Yep.
But the last thing where I kind of wanted to go with this is, you have all this talent, but will they mesh? Will they come together as a team? And I think that's really going to be the biggest question mark. It's not a matter of the talent level. I think that's undeniable. It's will they play well together? Will they stick together when times get a little rough? And I think when you're getting a really good coach with Will Wade, I don't think he's going to allow that to happen. No. So yeah, I'm definitely very bullish on this team. I told myself I was going to get bullish on these teams, but it's hard not to get bullish.
Because again, and in my opinion, like, we don't truly know what the ceiling is yet. Like, that's a little bit to be determined on how this first few games go, seeing how the team plays together. But the floor is incredibly high.
I agree.
It's high. So, so with that being said, Greg, I totally forgot to plug my computer in before we started this. So it was giving me the low battery, but not at a more perfect time for that to happen, because I know you can talk baseball for days without him even being here. So Greg, get us started here with baseball here real quick, and let me go plug my computer in real quick. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. Yeah, sadly, the Pac-9 season came to an end this past weekend down in the plains of Auburn. Just a really hard fought series. I think we just got a little bad bracket. We were talking about bracket luck with basketball, and I think we got a little bit of that with baseball, having to play Stetson, a very quality, scrappy, mid-major team that didn't get enough credit. And look, sometimes you just don't get good matchups, and I think one of those was this past weekend with having to play Stetson twice. They gave us a lot of fits. We didn't do ourselves any favors on Friday. It was a little rough, to say the least. Pitching probably let us down a little bit. I think it would be an understatement for that Friday game. But you came back, Marone. Look, I love Dom Fritton. I think he's going to be a quality pro. I think he's got a chance to do some stuff. I just felt better with throwing Marone on Friday. I just have. I think his numbers. Fritton's got a really good strikeout ratio, but I just think Marone does some things a little bit better, and then he puts you in a better position to win game 1, because this team showed it. Losing game 1, it's really hard to come back after losing game 1 in a regional. Your success rate is less than 20% if you don't win. To win a regional, I think it's like 10 and some change to come back and win a regional after losing your first game. And even losing your second game it's still tough, because then you have to play that double header. It can be done, but it's just way harder. And at the end of the day, we just ran out of arms. I think, look, you saw some good things. You saw some glimpses of the future. I think Ryder Woodson can be a great piece moving forward. You saw some guys that made, to think that he didn't even make the all-regional team is insane. I know Isaiah Barkett had a really nice regional. He did some really good things. But just playing that Stetson team, it was a scrappy team. We playing them in the 2 games, we only gave up 5 extra base hits to them in 2 games, but yet they scored like 40 runs, and I think they're still scoring runs against us right now. We literally just got death by 1,000 paper cuts in those 2 games. Thankfully, we were able to win the second matchup. But again, it was what was the final? 18-12, I think.
Yeah.
Was that the final? I can't remember.
12.
It was a lot. But and
right.
then you lost 11-2 in the first game. But again, they only had 5 extra base hits, no home runs. But we walked 9 guys, and we didn't play great defense in those games. Yeah, Michelle, I think look, I thought we should have had enough. Thank you, Michelle. 17-12, not 18-12. But I had opportunities, and again, we ran out of arms against a very good Auburn team. Their hitter Irish is going to probably be a top 10, top 15 major league pick, and he showed you why. He crushed that home run last night.
Yep.
But again, a really good season. I wouldn't say great, but a really good season. You were finished to pick 7th in the league. You ended up 4th, but really only a game out of 1st. So you kind of exceeded some expectations. I thought this was a team that could definitely get to a super regional and win. Again, just bracket luck. I thought if you had the right matchups, you had a chance. Just didn't work out, in getting in that hole on Friday, having to throw guys, and it just didn't work out. But there's a good foundation there if guys come back.
Yeah, it's so funny because I know it's a completely separate sport, like completely different, beast within itself. But I look at Don Fritton a lot like how I look at Ed Scott for wrestling.
Yeah, that's not a bad analogy.
Yeah, where it's like you have all the talent in the world, my man. Like I've seen, like, when you're at your best, you're unhittable. You know, with Ed Scott, if you're at your best, like, you're unbeatable. Simple as that. Yeah. But when you're at your worst,
Dom's biggest issue all year has just been walks, and pitch counts, and by proxy, walking guys is going to give you a bigger pitch count, and so that's just been his issue. I mean, he got 1 out in the first game, and I think he threw 31 pitches and only got 1 out. And then he was at 30 pitches in the game last night. If he could get a swing and miss type thing, because I think, and again, I don't know how much of this is pitch calling and all of that, so I won't put this all on Dom, because I don't think that's fair to him.
No,
but if he had like just some kind of devastating pitch, like a devastating slider or fastball that would touch just a couple miles an hour and then put it like up in their eyes, and I just think some of that was just kind of things that we just let guys get. He would just nibble, and then like it would feel like he'd get like a 3-2 count, and then either Walker or the guy would get a little dinker or dunker, because he didn't get hurt by the long ball, and that's kind of been an issue with him at times too. So like he did a good job in that regard, but. Yeah, it was just tough. It's just tough when you have to blow through those pitchers. And look, Duden wasn't his best yesterday. Schaff was okay. Nance only got the ball the 1 game. He didn't do horrible, but again, you just didn't. In order for us to be successful, we needed that same formula that we have been doing a lot this year, where we were using a starting pitcher, and then you could bridge to the rest of the game, right? We had guys that could get, like Nance could get you 4 or 5 innings. You had Schaff that could get you 3. Duden could get you 3. And we just didn't have ourselves in that position to do that this weekend, so we had to use more pitchers than we wanted to. And ultimately, when you play these regionals, it's all about pitching. It's all about arm management and going out and scoring enough runs.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about the season as well, but I do want to go ahead and answer or talk a little bit about Michelle's question here. Greg, what is your take on anyone entering the portal? Because I think you and I think most State fans who know this, who see how young this team is, that's going to be the biggest question this offseason is who stays, who goes. Yeah,
it's can you keep that core together? The big thing, first off,
when you say the core, who's the core?
Yeah, so the cores are your sophomores, right? So you have your pitching, you have Duden, you have Duden, Marone, and Sosa. That's kind of your core young sophomores, right? And then you have some freshmen that came in this year, and then you had. So I put that in 3 categories: your sophomores that you carried over. You can even throw Cooper Consiglio into that, though he had his moments this year where he struggled at times. So you have those 4 guys. So 3 pitchers and one field position guy. You have the transfers that you brought in this year. So you have your, you can throw in Fraseman, McHugh, and
the queue for sure.
Yeah, and then DeCrisio, but he's going to leave because he's out of eligibility. So you had a couple of key transfers that you brought in that you should be able to keep, and then you had the freshmen that came in that made some significant contributions. So you have your Ty Heads, your Brandon Novies, and then your Ryder Woodson, who was really good. And then you've got some pitchers in there that are young that didn't pitch this year, and so you hope that you can bring some of those in. So anyway, all of that. What is my take on anyone entering the portal? So we know we've already got 2 in there, Jake Bechtel and Jacob Denise. Have already submitted their names to the portal. I would probably guess you're going to have 10 to 12 at minimum. Again, it's just the way that baseball works these days. The last 2 years, you had exactly a 50% roster turnover at 20 coming in and 20 leaving. That's going to change because those numbers are going to come down. That you can only carry 34 starting next year. So some guys are going to have to transfer out because right now you're carrying. I think you're gonna have probably at least if nothing else happens, 2 to 3 guys that have to transfer out to get to that 34 number by the time that kicks in. But there's going to be some good names that are going to leave the program, unfortunately. I don't want to. I know a few things I don't want to share here, but there's going to be a few that we're like, dang, wish we could have kept him. And then there's 1 or 2 that can go 50-50 that I think that they were solid contributors. One that was really a really good contributor, but I think that person's got some asks that will need to be met. If we meet those, they'll be back, and they're a significant contributor. But yeah, you're going to see a different team. It's going to, I mean, football doesn't feel like there's many transfers, even though it's a bigger number. I don't know why. Maybe State's just been kind of lucky in that regard. I think Dorn's done a good job holding players. Basketball is completely different, though smaller roster. But baseball is a huge roster turnover. I mean, a huge roster turnover, at least for us. I don't know how it works out for the rest of the NCAA.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you probably one of the biggest reasons why is because in football, I mean, you have 11 guys are on a field at a time. You have an offensive 11, you have a defense 11, you have a special teams 11. But you also will substitute guys. I mean, those same 11 defensive guys aren't going to play every single snap. They're going to substitute out. Injuries are going to happen. So a big roster is going to be needed, and a lot of them are going to be used. But in basketball, you only have 5 guys on a court at a time. You have a group of 13 guys, so that's roughly, if I could do some math here in my head, like 30-40% of your roster is on the court at a time. Right. You're going to substitute through guys. So, you're probably, for most rosters, going to have over half of your roster see the court at a time, or sorry, in a game. You're going to have probably half your roster see the court per game. But with baseball, I mean, how big is a roster? Like,
well, it's 40 right now.
40
right
guys.
Now.
40 guys. 9 guys are on the field at a time. And so that's 25% of your roster, and more than likely, especially if those guys are playing well, those are going to be more likely the only 9 or 10 guys that play any baseball at all the whole season. So it's very easy for 60-70% of the players to be sitting on the bench going, dang, like I need to go somewhere and play. You know what I mean? And because there's a lot of baseball. There's a lot of colleges that have baseball teams out there. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, and part of it too, the way NC State uses their pitchers, I like to call it the circle of trust. You've got three weekend starters. You got a midweek guy. So there's really 4 starting roles out there. And you've got 5 or 6 guys that State typically likes to roll with. And you're not using another five guys who aren't going to get any innings. And if you're not getting innings, you're not going to hang around, to your point. So that's one thing. State really, once State gets a roster, like a lineup that they really like, there's not a lot of deviation from it. Unless there's an injury or something like that. Sometimes you'll see even like the DH, they had kind of figured that out a little bit towards the end of the year, where you had a lefty guy and a righty guy. So you had that. But other than that, other than on Saturday where it was do or die, and you magically insert Ryder Woodson into the lineup, and then everyone's
Man.
like, well, holy crap, where's this guy been for the last 4 months?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how the Ryder Woodson thing's going to play out. I'll be honest. You know, he's a guy that had a hell of a weekend, and if you're looking at a time to cash in, he just did it. You know, and he did it he's a Florida kid, and he just did it in an SEC ballpark.
Right.
So
Well,
do the math.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, too, for NC State, not at a better time either. Because honestly, here's the thing I would say is that, I mean, you know, if he played like that the whole season,
right,
then your chances of keeping him are way less than now. And but also too as well, you've seen truly what you have in him. So it's a lot easier if you're Elliott Avent to say, okay, I'll invest a little bit more to make sure you stay around. Sure, you know.
Yeah.
But again,
but you can play devil's advocate too. The kid just could have just been on a heater, right?
It could have been.
You know, I'm not saying that he was or wasn't. I'm just showing both sides of it. You see guys that see the ball as a beach ball. You know, you had Frazeman who had that weekend against Clemson, and he kind of had his struggles a little bit. Yeah, he had some struggles. No, he picked it up. He had a nice weekend this weekend in regionals. Did some nice things. But again, you just don't know. You know, if these guys just, like I said, get on a heater and they're just seeing the ball really well. Baseball is just that sport. You can go. You look at Luke Nixon. He was struggling, and then he hits a home run on Saturday, and he got going a little bit. Right. It's just it's a roller coaster kind of type season, and it's tough, and
it really is.
So like we recruited Woodson as a shortstop. Now we're losing Decrecio, so that would seem that you can naturally slide him in there. But you got a kid that may or may not make it to campus in Aiden West, who's a really good ball player. But then you're gonna have holes, right? You're gonna have third base. What are you gonna do at third base? As good as Havner's glove is, there's a reason they put Ryder Woodson in on Saturday, because he's been struggling, and there's a reason why he's leading the nation at 17 sacrifices, because that's where he provides value to your team. And third base is one of those positions where it's a power position. You expect some numbers. Look at Alex Makarevich. Look at Gino Groover. Those are guys that play third base that you're going to want some pop in the bat. So yeah, I think there's some things that we're going to have to be worked out between now and fall ball, and that's the beauty of it is you'll start to see what this roster looks like here in about 2 months. It's a quick turnaround. Then the other question is, do you want to talk about Elliott Avent right now?
I would say so. Yeah. Because I mean, for me, that's a big question for sure.
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't track, allegedly, he doesn't have a contract. Yeah. I know our guy Ethan. Ethan and I talked about it. His last thing he signed was in 2020, taking him to 2025. Now there were some options built into that. I don't know I don't know what those options were or who has the ability to exercise them.
Right.
Where I was a little befuddled was how you had Kevin Keats get season kickers for making the Final Four.
Right.
Elliott Avent just made the College World Series. Does he not? I would have thought maybe he would have had some automatic escalations in there. Twice, correct. In 21. That's right.
21.
Yeah. Apparently not, which it's kind of weird. I would have assumed that was built in, but I don't know. I don't know that. I thought it was interesting if you subscribe to IPS that they just ran a feature on Chris Hart last week, right before the tournament. A very in-depth piece about Chris Hart, presumably the heir apparent to Elliott Avent. Again, I don't know if that's what Boo Corrigan values and views. Yeah. I don't. I mean, he's gonna make the call and pull the strings on that. Yeah. And then if you watched Elliott Avent's interview last week with Mark Packer on ACC PM, there was a little thing in there that maybe you picked up on. So for anyone that didn't catch that interview, Coach Avent and Mark Packer were like, Mark was like, hey, we should book that Kentucky Derby trip. And Avent said, book it. And then he came back about 30 seconds later, goes, in a few years. So I don't know if that was a Freudian slip or just how the conversation progressed. Just putting a little tin hat and
Yeah.
seeing, where there's smoke, sometimes there's fire. And so you
Yep.
start looking at these things, and now you can start connecting dots. Okay, why is IPS running a random piece on Chris Hart? Like that
Yep.
might have been a piece you do at the beginning of the season, but it's right before the tournament. And then you hear that Avent doesn't have a contract potentially. And then you see this Mark Packer interview, and you start connecting these dots, and you're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
is there something
Right.
there?
Well, especially too, and because like right now, I mean, for the last few years, it's kind of been a little bit of a changing of the guard a little bit across college baseball. There's a lot of the guys that have been, a head coach for 30, 40 years. I mean, the Georgia Tech head coach, officially, one of the winningest head coaches, of all time. I mean, and I honestly, really built that entire Georgia Tech baseball program from the ground.
Yeah, was there 25 years, and then I don't know if you followed it, but Mississippi State has a brand new head coach, and he was the head coach at UVA, and he won a national championship at UVA. So why is national championship coaches leaving their cushy jobs?
Cushy, yeah, no. So again, listen. I mean, Elliott Avent, I'm still going to stand by it. No matter what little frustrations may come over a baseball season for sure. At the end of the day, I would hope that guy is gonna have a lot, if not full say of how these things go.
I think he's earned it.
He's earned it. But again, you and I both know. And listen, let's put it this way. At the end of the day, if Boo has to pull the trigger, and it's also too, at the end of the day, if Boo has a great plan in place, I don't want him necessarily be afraid to pull the trigger. Like at the end of the day, like at some point, in-state baseball has to move on. It has to go on.
Yeah.
It has to eventually. I don't necessarily think that's now, especially because this crew is so young. I mean, I think for as long as you, just like you said, Greg, if you keep that core for next year, Austin Staley, I actually was looking at a tweet saying, great year, man, from Austin Staley, former NC State baseball player. Great year, man. Very young team that came up short. Hopefully we can build around this group with a few more pieces next year.
Yeah.
So, give, just like you said, Alex Sosa, give Chris, and Frazeman, give those guys a full off season with Chris Hart and see what happens. Keep Duden, around, keep Marone around, keep some of these other pitching pieces.
Nance is a big piece.
Big piece. So you're automatically right there. You're setting up for a great year next year. So I don't think it's now, but also too, as well, like you were saying, Greg, I mean, it's kind of a time where
you're at a crossroads.
Well, because if he doesn't have, if technically he doesn't even have next year right now, if you're Boo Court and you come and say, hey, I'll give you a 1-year contract, is Avent even going to sign a 1-year contract?
Well, I think he would, just because I know how passionate he is about the upgrades at Doak. Like, I really feel like he wants to see that through. Like, to me, that seems like a natural time where he would be like, okay, I've done all of this. I've done it at State. The winningest coach. I've got over 1,000 career victories, 900 of them not over 900 of them at State, 50 postseason wins. This is my lasting legacy right here, is seeing the upgrades at Doak. And then I think you ride off into the sunset, whatever that looks like, right? Whether you go out on top winning a championship in the ACC or a College World Series. But I think that's probably what his goal would be. He just got married last year, so he probably wants to live his best life with his bride.
Go to Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, go to the Kentucky Derby. So to me, that seems like where the natural ending would be. I just don't know if Boo sees it the same way.
Sure. But again, I get it. And Boo should, again, at the end of the day, there is a level. At the end of the day, like if I have a guy that I've talked to that I feel really good about, like that is going to do a great job. At the end of the day, I got to be willing to pull the trigger. At the end of the day, we like at the end of the day, Avent can't stand away. Now, once again, Avent loves NC State to death. There is not a coach. There's not many fans that love NC State more than Elliott Avent. Simple as that. So at the end of the day,
he's an institution.
And here's my other thing, Greg. I would hope, honestly, if Boo Corrigan actually does have that guy that's like, dude, this guy, he's a proven winner. He's at a, power, 5, power 4 level, like, top 25, whatever, that he would come to Avent and say, listen, Avent, I got this guy. He's ready to go. Can we work together to make a transition happen smoothly?
Right.
And I'm sure, and I would hope that Avent would be all for that.
Yeah. Put a plan in place. Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree. And you would hope too that Chris Hart, like you said, and I've said, gets the first look, right? And look,
Absolutely.
it's hard to replace a legend, but the way that Coach Avent has kind of just let Chris Hart run the program. I mean, he's the guy.
Yes.
If you read the article, he's the guy. He's the lead recruiter. He handles all the money. He does all the scholarship stuff.
He should have been gone by now. He should have been somewhere else.
He has. Yeah, he's had opportunities. He's been so loyal, and I think in today's and look, I get it. Loyalty is not everything, but it should be something, right? It should be the basis of starting a conversation. He could have gone and taken a P4 job, mid-major job, and already be a Power 4 coach. I mean, he would have been. I feel like he would have been super, super successful, and just like what he's done. I mean, he was the guy that brought in Trey Turner. He's got connections out the wazoo. Again, if you read the piece, his family is very connected in the NCAA college world. He's got siblings that have been running as ADs and like very well respected name in the industry. And so you would hope, as a guy that loves Raleigh, right? Because you already have that guy in Avent, and then you could kind of pass the torch to another guy who probably wouldn't be like a Ray Tanner who left for an SEC job. I think Chris Hart could be another guy that's here 20 to 25 years. And to say something that you've only had 2-3 coaches in a 60 to 70 year span is insane. And I think that I think there's something to be said. But at the end of the day, like you said, it all lies. What is Boo's plan? And I think Boo's had a good track record so far, bringing in coaches.
Yeah. Well, and I want to ask you, Greg, because in a lot of sports, there's a big difference between being an assistant coach, even being the associate head coach, and being the head coach. So I want to ask you, is that, like, let's say, I don't know, like, a proven ACC coach, that's towards the top, says, hey, Boo, I want to come to NC State. Do you say that there is still a risk in the fact that Chris Hart, even though he's been, like, I feel very good about it, that there's still not a guarantee that he can be a successful head coach? Do you say with that they're for baseball?
for sure. He's unproven, and in that regard, he's unproven as a head coach. But again, if you look at all the responsibilities that Avent has put on his shoulders, he's essentially a head coach, other than making like the on the spot decisions. Now, I'm sure he's part of that council of when in game, hey, like they're picking each other's brains, and again, the buck stops at Avent. But I think that he gets a lot of say in what happens during the games, as far as like, because he is the hitting coach. I mean, he is the hitting coach, and to see the guys that have just increased their value from an offensive perspective, it's insane. Like McHugh had better numbers at NC State than he did at VCU, so he had better numbers coming up in competition, and that's just one example. And then you look at Gino Groover, Cozart, Pennington, Amac. Again, these are just guys within the last couple of years. You can go back even further. I think he's earned the right. Like, if you asked me, and then here's the thing: it keeps the core together too. Again, assuming that this happens in the next year or two, because what happens is you're seeing it at UVA right now. There's a mass exodus because their coach just left them for Mississippi State. I mean, there's a ton of those guys in the portal. And so if your window is now, and next year, you got to keep that nucleus together. That's your only chance. Yeah. And in the interim.
Yeah. Well, and now let me ask you, because again, and I don't want to ask you to share too much, because I know you're very close with the situation for sure. Do you think the players, like a dude in Marone, knows like this could be the last? It could be the last nucleus that Avent has, like, kind of like out with him.
I think it will be. And again, look, I'm not sharing any inside secrets here, but like the Maroons, the Dudens, the Sosas, they're draft eligible next year. They're going to get drafted in very good spots.
Yes. Next
year will be their last years. I'm not sharing anything crazy there. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Marone. Look, Duden's a top 3 to 4 round pick. I think Marone's in that same category. I think Sosa's right around that too. Day 1, day 2 guys. I think all 3 of them are day 1, day 2 guys. Definitely day 2, but they could sneak into day 1. So I think that you let Avent finish this core and then give Hart the reins and let him start building his empire. But to your point earlier, will Avent coach on a 1-year contract? I don't know too many coaches that would. Like, they want that job security.
Yeah, no. So, but also too, as well as, again, like if Avent says I want 3 years, even me as a fan, I'm going.
I don't think Boo would go for it.
No, and even me as a fan, I'm like,
I think you give them 2. I mean, look, here you can play this a couple different ways, right? You can give 2 with a 1-year option, right? Sure. Because then in 2 years everything should be done at the Doak. Now that doesn't mean that if he goes out and craps the bed next year that you can't fire him then. Like, there's nothing that precludes you, and then you're only on the hook for 1 year, which makes that much more manageable. So I think you could work together if they have that kind of relationship. Boo, and I'm speaking of Boo and Coach Avent. If they've got a good relationship, you look, it's going into your boss's office and say, hey, let's talk this thing out. Let's have a conversation, and let's see if we can, let's make a deal.
Well, but I mean, do you agree with me though, Greg, that it really seems to all be building up for next year?
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah. There's no doubt.
Like the renovations, the nucleus, because after next year, it's going to be in my opinion, another big transition point with the Doak. With I mean, you're going to have to find a new nucleus. So what a better time to hand over the reins to Chris Hart than in a big transition point anyway.
Yeah, I completely agreed. Again, it's our management and staff on the same page.
Same page, exactly.
I mean, that's what it boils down to. And look, Coach Avent's been doing it a long time. Boo's been doing it a long time. Are they going to butt heads, or are they going to be, hey, let's make this happen, right? Again, only they know. We're not privy to that. I feel like Coach Avent deserves, some slack, some grace.
100%.
He's gone to the tournament like every damn year except for like the COVID year, I'm sorry, the year after COVID. And we were like, arguably we were gypped in that, and I think he's only missed it like 1 or 2 other times in all of his time. Like, he's got a hell of a track record making regionals. And look, in today's age, because these conferences are so big, you're going to pretty much play an SEC team every year because of the way it stacks up, and so again, bracket luck, right? But you make some of your bracket luck. Like, if State goes and finishes the season a little bit stronger, gets a regional, like, if you don't kind of fall apart a little bit against Stanford, you're hosting, maybe you're probably sitting around 12, 13. So maybe you're taking Coastal spot or maybe 14, 15. It's a lot different. You get that home cooking. Like, they were loud in Auburn. I mean, they were making some serious noise. But 3 out of the 4 games, we had basically no one at the games. You only had Auburn that one game. And so, but like, by that point, we're already out of pitcher. So it really didn't matter at that point. The crowd wasn't a factor.
Yeah.
But it's going to start real soon. I think, in the next probably 24 to 72 hours, you're going to start seeing some names. You're going to start seeing names dropping into the portal. And based on that, like, what does your nucleus look like? Do you have a nucleus? And then at that point, maybe Boo makes his decision to say, you know what? I don't like what we got coming back. Thanks for your service, Avent. Like, who knows how this is going to play out? Like, I didn't expect anything to happen within the first 24 hours of the season being over. They're doing all their exit interviews and stuff like that.
Sure.
But I think by the middle or the end of the week, we'll start seeing some stuff happen, and then you can kind of make your assumptions and you jump to your conclusions then.
I think there's no doubt that what Will Wade just went through with Keats and the hiring of Will Wade is definitely going to be one of his biggest, like, kind of plant a flag in it, stake moves for sure. I mean, just even being able to, even just deciding to fire Keats after he just took you to a Final Four ACC championship, but then also actually going and pulling off and getting Will Wade.
Yeah.
This Avent situations, in terms of from a, not necessarily a national publicity standpoint, but from an NC State standpoint, it's going to be just as big. Like, it's in terms of, like, it's because you're talking about one of the all-time, like, you're talking about an NC State legend, no doubt about it. You're talking about one of the most beloved coaches, like, right up there with your Jimmy V, with your K-Al. Ellie Avent, in terms of how beloved he is right up there. But also, too, you're talking about a program that also, too, has been, just like you're saying, consistently year after year, top 25 competitive, regional, super regional competitive. So it's it's boss too, because you just like you said, you're going to have a Chris Hart that's there, that seems to be, but also too as well. If Boo Corrigan makes some calls to some pretty established coaches out there, they're going to take the call. True.
Yeah,
So,
there's no, if a decision is made and Hart's not the presumptive,
not the guy.
Yeah, not the guy.
Yep.
I don't think you're going to struggle bringing a coach into there, just because of the pedigree that State has. Yeah. And I want to, like, I've seen some comments on social media, and again, take it for what it's worth, and people have opinions. The narrative that Avent's been here for so long and not quote unquote won anything is complete trash. Like I saw a comment like, well, he's got no hardware. Well, homie, like every time you win a super regional, you get a trophy. Like that's some serious hardware. Like when you go to the College World Series, you get a College World Series participant. I know it's a participant trophy, but you're one of the 8 teams. It's essentially the Final Four. I know it's 8, but it's essentially the Final Four.
Now, I mean, I will say, Greg, and I know you're not, but again, that for me, I'm sitting here after losing to Auburn, thinking about the coach talk after losing in game 1 or game 2 versus Stanford. I'm sitting here like, well, I would be able to swallow this way easier if we were AC regular season champions. But I do agree with you. At the end of the day, Elliott Avent is, I mean, he's not only is he beloved, but also too, again, I mean, he's like with Elliott Avent, you're going to be in the top 25. You're going to a regional, take it to the bank every single year. Like it's almost an unwritten rule with Elliott Avent. So it's like, there's no NC State fan that should be disrespecting Elliott Avent for sure. Yeah, I could be frustrated in terms of being like thinking about the TCU follower, being like, oh my gosh,
yeah, that one was brutal.
I can think about how we literally in the Kentucky region,
Kentucky.
The Kentucky regional, where all we had to do was win one game. Kentucky had literally no pitchers. And we couldn't get it done. The Duke AC championship game, we lost 1-0. Like I can pull my hair out.
Yeah, there's definitely some things.
But you cannot disrespect Elliott Avent.
No,
you still can't do it.
Agree. And look, I'll play devil's advocate here. Even if we won the ACC regular season championship, there was no guarantee we were going to get a regional. Look at Georgia Tech.
No.
Like and like I'm not saying our records were the same, but they're kind of ish. They got crapped on. So even when they 100% got hosed. But who's to say that wouldn't have been State had we won a ACC? I think our numbers were slightly better, but that didn't seem to stop the committee from doing some nonsense. Again, committee did pretty good for the most part, but there was no guarantee. And who knows, like if you go to the Ole Miss region, because that's where Georgia Tech ended up at.
Of course, we say that, and number 1 and number 2 overall seeds both lose their regionals. Like,
it's been wild. Yeah, I mean they're losing them.
Never happened.
Yeah, I mean Texas lost to UTSA, which is a good program. They're a good baseball program, but they're not a juggernaut. And then you had Vandy losing to Wright State, who, by the way, NC State swept this year.
Yeah.
So as crazy as that is,
only in baseball.
Yeah. Again, it's a one game. Yeah. I mean, 9 times out of 10, Vandy is going to probably win that game. Or in a 3-game series, they're probably going to win 2 out of 3. But you only needed 1 that day.
Right. Yep. So again, it's an interesting time in state baseball. Like it is for sure a interesting time to be an NC State fan for sure. Because whether you're talking, basketball, you're talking football, you're talking baseball, there is a lot to talk about. So with that being said, even though it is sad for sure that the athletic season has finally come to an end, it's crazy. It's actually finally come to an end. Today is the first day with no NC State sports, 0 actually, in fact. So
what is that? What does that mean? Is that like the Pablo Escobar where he's sitting on a bench? Is that is that what it was from?
Yeah.
That was me today. That was me today.
Yeah,
I was just
in there.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I did the final math last night of total miles traveled for this year. Had I made it to Auburn, which things happen, as Macon would say, I'm not even a fan, but we miss you, buddy. If you had to guess how many miles I traveled this year, okay, dude, what do you want to take a gander at?
What were you at last year?
Yeah, last year was almost 36,000 miles. But remember, those were trips to Dallas, Phoenix, and Hawaii were part of those numbers. So
we also went to Cal this year.
I did go to Cal this year. That is correct.
I mean, I'm still going to say you were in the ballpark. I'm still going to say like 31, 32. I'm still going to say you're in the ballpark.
So if I had made Auburn, it would have been right at like almost 31,000. But because of not making it to Auburn, it was 28,692 miles.
You need to do like I saw it yesterday where it was like San Diego Chargers versus Cincinnati Bengals because San Diego Chargers had to travel the most last year and the Cincinnati Bengals had to travel the least. You need to do one of those like a plane, like, you know, you drive from here to here to here to here. Like,
I did that last year. I did that last year for just football. It's really hard to do it for every event. Sure. I got to go back and do the numbers of how many events. I think last year I was at 71 events. I was probably pretty close this year, just because baseball helps because you're playing 3
exactly
in a weekend. But almost 29,000 miles traveled. But I told Kristen last night. Oh, go ahead. I'll let you.
Nope. Told Kristen. Go ahead.
So I told Kristen, for those that know, that's my wife, and I said, "Well, I'm not going to any more games."
God bless her.
I know. God bless her. I said, "I'm not going to any more games." She's like, "Forever?" I'm like, "Woman, you know that ain't happening
this season."
She goes, "I know. There's just this season. It's over. I know." But yeah, we get 2 months because we'll be right back at it August 28th for football. It'll be here quick.
No. Honestly, I always fall back on this meme, and I love it the best is the Will Ferrell from Talladega Nights going, "I don't know what to do with my hands," like, you know, like that's gonna be you now, the Christian. Like,
it's usually this. It's usually this. Now I don't know what to do with my hands. Yeah. For anyone know, I was going up the Wolves. But exactly. I don't know what to do with my hands. That's actually really good.
Yeah.
It's been fun. I mean, so let me ask you this before we close, because I think this is a good time because it's the end of year. Maybe we'll do a more in-depth one, you know, next week talking about, since we won't have anything to talk about. And maybe this will be our teaser.
I hope you're asking the question I want you to ask, because I'm already ready to go. If I answer it quickly, it's because you asked the question I'm hoping you're asking.
NC State athletic year, successful or not successful?
Dude, honestly, has this been one of the most disappointing athletic seasons in terms of?
I mean, maybe that's what we talk about next week.
In my opinion, if it's not the most disappointing, I'm not saying bad, but disappointing.
Yeah,
I don't know what I don't know what would be, honestly.
Yeah,
just in terms of like, because football, men's basketball, baseball all had high expectations. Now, different expectations, but in terms of from what the expectations were to where they finished. Because again, like baseball, yes, because you might be thinking, baseball, but again, I was sitting here saying you had Duden, you had D-Rock, I think
we had personal high expectations for this season because you saw what was coming back from a College World Series, but the ACC like writers and media didn't think that we were, you know, like they weren't giving us enough credit. Well, that was really the big one, and we talked about how, and Michelle mentioned it, like how young we were as a team.
Yeah. But then, I mean, you know, then you could talk about football and like, oh my gosh, college football playoffs are bust. Like, you know, like,
did we really say that?
Oh, total. Oh, I mean, dude, that was. I mean, again, getting no.
Oh yeah, because we had Noah Rodgers and we had
Rodgers. You had Jordan Waters.
It's funny how we forget these things so quickly.
You had everybody.
Grayson McCall. Yeah.
Yep. And then I mean, you know, then the biggest one of all, which was men's basketball, and even still, women's basketball as well. You know,
I mean, they made postseason, and baseball made postseason, soccer made postseason, volleyball made postseason.
Draft picks though in the WNBA draft. You know,
I don't know. We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week though. So good. Yeah.
Well, hold on. Before we close, what was it? What were you thinking I was going to ask you?
I thought you were gonna ask me what was like the highlight, or like in your opinion, like the best part of that athletic
the pinnacle, the mountaintop. Yeah. We'll talk about that next week. I like that though.
Yeah. Well, here I'm gonna say mine just because I've been queuing it up.
Okay. Hold on. What was your moment? What was your high moment of your high water mark? That's the term. The high water mark.
What would you say? So basically, what is like? If there was one sport that was like that you kind of like got like the crown of like, you know, you impressed, you overachieved, like phenomenal job.
I think we're gonna have the same answer.
Well, first of all, yeah, there's not like just a ton of options per se.
All right,
Unfortunately,
hey, let's count it out and say it at the same time. I know it won't make good for good audio, but let's not influence each other. All righty,
okay.
1,
1,
2,
2,
3.
3.
Men's soccer.
Yep.
Even though we were a little off, but yeah, you were saying it at the same time.
Yeah. Men's soccer.
Yeah, I agree.
I was totally thinking it easily.
Yeah.
I mean, winning the first round of the NCAA tournament for the first time, and I don't even know how long. Like,
I think you give honorable mention to tennis, both men's and women's.
oh, for sure,
they had good seasons. But yeah, I agree.
Men's tennis is up there. I got to give men's tennis a lot of flowers.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to give men's tennis a lot of flowers.
But we'll talk about it more next week.
We'll talk more next week.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Wolfpack Nation, make sure first of all, make sure to tune in with us again next week. It's going to be a fun one next week. Again, even though we do not have NC State sports, that does not mean NC State talk is going to stop. That is for sure. But with that being said, Wolfpack Nation, if you haven't already, make sure you do not miss it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. If you enjoyed this conversation, hit that like button, and also too, if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to us, do us a big favor. Leave us a 5-star review. We greatly appreciate that. And make sure you give us a call. Got
a great too. He's great. Wrestling national champion. We were talking team sports, but
no, that one's up there.
We'll definitely talk about that next week.
Oh, for sure. And then also to make sure to give us a follow on Twitter at Tuffy Talk Now, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. But with that being said, we'll see y'all soon. As always, go Pack, y'all.
Go Packs.